All right, we're recording. Hello. Okay, so this is my first vlog about campaign update for Red Aries campaign. Hey, my name is Matt. You probably know me as Mr. Triceratops on most platforms or Mr. T on Discord, depending where you are. And so this is just kind of a wrap-up discussion about the Red Aries campaign world that I set up. So just showing you here my blog for a background. I'll show you this and Roll20 to kind of go over just kind of a discussion as to what happened. This is some preliminary artwork that I created. Oh gosh, how long ago was this? 2021. So 2020, 2021 to kind of show off to people what this world looks like. And so these are just tokens I created for the world itself, for vehicles. So we got the tortoise with or without a turret, a bus here, and also a combat car. So these were kind of items I routinely use. I'm kind of happy I created these, and feel free to steal them and use them. I have Creative Commons licensing. No, you cannot sell them, but you can totally use them for a campaign. These icons, they work well in Roll20 or any other platform you want to use, VTT. And yeah, this is a preliminary sketch that kind of just gave an idea just how the world looks, how people kind of live. And so Red Aries takes place on Mars, of all places, hence the name. But it is about 200 Martian years after the destruction of Earth. And so what happened was Earth mystically or magically destroyed. No one really knows what had happened. It's mostly wrapped up in myth and legends, i.e., me as game master haven't really figured out what had happened yet. So I said, screw it, I'll just throw it down the road. We're not going to Earth anyways, because Earth is gone. And so Mars has been terraformed. People are living on Mars and thriving somewhat and surviving. And so Mars, though, its terraforming wasn't perfect. And so there was this storm that sweeps through the surface of the Earth that forces people to kind of migrate away from this storm. It's known as the dust or the tempest. They call it a number of different things. And so as a result of people wanting to avoid the tempest, Mars has become kind of this, the people who live on Mars, people who live on Aries, have become transient. And so what happens is that people kind of follow these gigantic walking cities, like this one right here, St. Michael's, down on the corner here. And they kind of live in these science fiction advanced trailer parks, and they follow these magnificent, powerful walking cities. Let's go to one of them. Let's go to St. Michael's. Here we go. There she is, St. Michael's himself. And so this is the giant walking fortress of St. Michael's that is ruled by the Agavian family. And it is as the name suggested, it's literally a walking fortress. And so there's an entire community of people who just follow the fortress, who either work for the Agavian family, or they work for one of the guilds that have association with the Agavian family, or they work, or for a mercenary company that has contracts or work with the Agavian family, and their allegiance is tied to that powerful city. So what has happened? I'm thinking probably, I guess 2021, so the summer of 2021, I believe, this campaign started. And players, they are dusters. And so dusters, they are kind of the adventurers of the world. They are also the people that can get stuff done outside of the regular communities that people live in. The reason we're called dusters is because they would quite often be sent out to do jobs out in the dust, out in the tempest. You see, all over the planet there are resource centers and places that are kind of permanent settlements. Like there's a lot of people who live in like little dome towns. And so these dome towns usually are dedicated to, like, for example, Foods 4 Dome. It's a giant dome, or a series of domes, I should say, that's dedicated to food production. There's Xavier Power Plant, which there's a large power plant there. And then there's Manny Dome, which is basically a giant farm, a domed farm. And so what happens is as the dust moves And as it recedes in certain areas, these giant walking fortresses will move to those areas to secure these areas as their own resource centers. So what's going to happen is that as the storm moves, St. Michael's is going to move, and then all the towns and all the communities that the players are associated with, they're going to follow St. Michael's. And so what happens is it changes up the contacts as well as the maps and the areas for the players. It'll allow them to bring in new contacts, and they're also potentially going to lose touch with other contacts. So this is, right now, what it just wrapped up is what I refer to as Season 1, which is the map you see here. And then Season 2, which I don't know when I'll be starting that. There's the players, they're my current players, they're very interested in doing this again because they really enjoy the world, and we're going to be opening up for other people to join in. Season 2 is going to take place someplace else because St. Michael's the storm is going to move, the tempest is going to engulf this area, and St. Michael says, yeah, see you later, let's go to the next area, and let's claim those resources for ourselves. So that is what is going to happen. What had happened over the past campaign is that players, they kind of started doing small jobs and odd jobs for various guilds and people, particularly out of the town of Falkern. Falkern is right here. Let's actually go to Falkern, shall we? Oh, hey, look, it's Falkern. So in Falkern, you see all over the place, there are these little things, they're called buses. And so these little buses essentially are trailers. They are vehicles that people will reside in, and they will kind of drive around. So let's see if driving a bus, a side view. I don't think I do. Although maybe I do. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is a bus right here. They're like one of those extra long city buses that are kind of connected like this, and they're on tracks. So kind of like a half track versus half track, half RV. These are more buses here. Do I have the rear? Oh, I forgot. Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. I think I forgot to upload this icon right here. This is kind of the one of the trailers for a bus. So they're all on tracks and then wheeled front wheels. Did I forget to post it? No, it's right there. And so you can see these multiple trailers long. So things known as there's a place known as the centipedes, which are kind of where the poor people live, and they're just like long trailers that follow a very powerful larger bus that will pull these long trailers that the poor live in. There is Falkern. So, oh, that's the player's tortoise there. Armored truck. So, and then there's a number of items. Let's see here. We have the giant walker right here. I can't remember its name off the top of my head. Giant armored crawler, which is represented right there. It's also, you can see one of them. This is actually, where is it? Here we go. There we go. This is one of the largest classes. It's known as a man of war. So, that's this is the Man of War, which is where the mercenary company, which protects Falkern, operates out of. I can't remember the name of the mercenary company off the top of my head. I am sorry. I have to check my notes. I am a terrible game master. So, players themselves, they've been doing odd jobs within this community, making contacts, doing a lot of work for a lot of the guilds. They've kind of had a run-in with one of the criminal organization up north. That was a funny story because we brought in a new player who only joined for one session. And what he did was two guys approached him in the bar, and they seemed kind of tough guys. And he said, oh no. So he immediately picked up a stool and hit them. And he landed a critical hit. So I'm like, crap. Roll for damage. He killed them. Crap. This dude, like a level 1 character, first thing he does, kills some random thug. And then the players end up having to fight off and kill the other thug. And then they had to ditch the bodies. But it turns out that they were just looking to send a message to the party and didn't want to get into the fight. Well, the guy never showed up for any future sessions, and now the players had this fight that they had to deal with this crime boss because, some random driver that they hired once guy to get in a fight. So, oh crap. Oops. So they had this long-standing war with Tim Burgess, who was a crime lord up north. But anyways, that's a side note. Over the course of the campaign, people started disappearing and then reappearing. What happened was certain members of different guilds as well as different places, they started disappearing. They would show up months later, not remembering anything. And they had like little bird marks on their foreheads, and just this 3 month period where they disappeared, it was just blank. They don't know what was happening. And so it was crazy. They were out hunting one day, they disappeared, and then everyone thought they were dead, and then they showed up. Jeez. Well, these people, they always started acting weird. These non-player characters, they started doing rather extreme things. Two guys became complete Luddites. They became convinced with this idea that all technology is evil, and they started, planting bombs by trucks and started doing small acts of terrorism in the communities. And so the players had to go and stop them, hunt them down and stop them. But they found, all these cases, there's this link where like they would be out, either hiking or hunting, and they'd disappear for 3 months, only show back. Family didn't know what happened to them. Eventually they distanced themselves from their families, and then they would do something really extreme, and no one really knew why. And when they start reading their diaries or notes, going through their emails, they found out they become obsessed with strange ideas. That there was an idea implanted in their head, and it began to manifest. And so what happened was that these characters, these NPCs, were essentially being kidnapped by evil cyborgs. See, in Red Ares, in the early development of, will this blow up? Now it's actually dropping here. What happened was, early on in the settlement of Mars, it was a harsh environment, so people started, corporations and governments started experimenting with mutations. And they start experimenting with, androids and cyborgs. And so kind of their own biological monstrosities, give them, average human intelligence, and then equip them so that they can easily survive on the harsh planet. And so a lot of these creatures have gone rogue. And now they kind of roam the dust, causing terror and havoc because they just despise their creators. These are creatures that were created to destroy, but eventually their masters had no purpose for them, and they just, for example, in Africa, where we have tons of landmines just discarded, well, these biological sentient creatures were just discarded. And so they came, somewhat resentful towards humans. Why would you do that? Why would you create me and then discard me like I'm nothing? And one creature that was created in a vat became known as Rakasha, which was this psychic creature that kind of looked like a mountain lion. And when he was discovered just, floating in a vat, he was discovered by a bunch of other rogue cyborgs. They gave him a body. And they discovered he had some pretty nifty psionic powers. And he eventually became a leader, and he decided, hey, I'm going to start experimenting on humans. Because part of his psionic powers is he kind of had the ability to implant ideas into people's heads. And so they started experimenting with kidnapping people, putting them in stasis chambers so that, they'd be passed out, they'd be asleep for months at a time, just cryostasis chambers. And he'd be able to use his psychic powers through a throne that he created, and he'd be able to implant ideas into these people's psyches. And then they just release them. And their minds, they didn't know what happened. It's just a haze, it's just a blur. But this idea, it's very much similar to Inception, one of my favorite movies. I love that movie, by the way. I was on the edge of the seat during the theater. I love it. It's just implant a little idea that eventually will affect people down the road. And that's what the Rakasha was doing. And he's working with a clan of cyborgs to, try to overthrow humans and destroy their old masters. And they had this idea, hey, let's kidnap some common Joe and, turn him into a thing of terror. So the players, they began to run into these cases of people who, would disappear, or they'd be kidnapped by cyborgs, or they'd be, selling other humans as cyborgs. They're running into all these cases, and they realized, oh crap, all these are connected. And that's whenever St. Michael's came to them and said, hey, We think we know what's causing this, and they hired the players to capture the Rakasha, which they did. It took 2 tries to try and get this guy. He was moving to multiple bases. But eventually they had to locate where he was, get a strike team in to really hit the base, and then the players had to go through the back channels. Actually, let's go there. I think it's, where is it? Where art thou? Ah, there we go. Hello. So, players, they came in this way from the south. Strike forces came this way. Fighting was going on. Unfortunately, the players came in early. They weren't able, because this is actually in the dust, and so it's hard for them to communicate. But they showed up at 2 hours early, so like, oh crap! So they had to like hide for a while before the strike force showed up. And this is an underground prison that's been abandoned. And so, why is Roll20 slow? What is wrong with you, Roll20? It's like this the other night. Anyways, so players themselves, they went through the back. They knew of a vent that was right here from a past employee of this prison, and they went through this rear entrance that's up there. It's a hidden one, while the strike force attacked from up here and assaulted the main entrance. That's actually, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, here we go. Hello. Okay. So, okay. So this is the abandoned prison. This is actually the second level. There's a entrance level that's right here. It's a giant mine shaft elevator that brings you down. And so we have the reactor right here. Players entered through here. They ended up like locking themselves in a security room, and they were just like trying to use the cameras. Now the way I run it is that when it comes to facilities, not everything is connected and not everything is online. What I mean by that is, just because I have a thermostat doesn't mean the thermostat will control the lights. Okay, this is in real life. And just because I have a door lock doesn't mean I can use my laptop here to lock or unlock my door. So in a future access setting, it's, I don't know, like a facility like this, yes, you should be able to have a central control that you would be able to override to control these things. But at the same point in time, too, it kind of works in... I'm sorry, Shank, here, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I just was trying to figure out what the deal is with my mic. I'm sorry for that tapping. So not everything is necessarily connected, obviously for security reasons, but in this case there was, so players were able to lock and unlock doors from where they were, but they also were able to use security cameras to see enemy movement. They were able to lay a trap to get cyborgs to go this way, and so they also were able to find things. Now, cameras were hit and miss because of it being ruins. It's not guaranteed that all the cameras are online, and so I kind of predicted that ahead of time. And so I said, you know what, I don't know if everything's online, so let's just, I don't know. So let's see if it is or if it isn't. You would basically have 50% chance that it would work. That's kind of how I ruled it as a game master. Ah, there we go. No, my mic's working. I'm sorry for that tapping sound. So they were able to kind of set a trap, and then they were able to go through. And so there's a reactor room right here. There's an old shower, which I ruled there was like some mutated rats in there, which they didn't run into. There was a cyborg lab, which they would do repairs, and they found like 2 cyborg dogs that were kind of like, one of them was chasing its tail, the other one's just standing there because they were under maintenance, so obviously they weren't. Both Fidos were on the fritz, so they weren't doing anything. And then there's the main entrance right here, which has garbage everywhere, and then there's the main prison ward, the main prison wing, I forget the actual word for it, all these prison cells, and inside of it there was vats of other cyborgs that were being grown. And so they grow these things in vats, and then they can use random parts that they find throughout the wilderness to build them up. And then we have the actual Rakasha's lair was actually underneath here, and so there's 2 entrances, one here and one here. The players were able to get down into the main entrance. Oh crap. Oh, I've never used this. That's right. This is a map I haven't used yet, which is awesome because that means one less map I need to make. Players came down here. Boom! And so this was Rakasha's lair. It was a newer edition. And so it had its own reactor, it had the throne room right here, it had the cryostasis chamber, it had a giant server, it had supply room, there was a mechanical lift down here for repairs, this is the holding room for people. And so there was two entrances, actually sorry, there's three entrances. There was an escape room, yeah that's right. There was three entrances to this place. The players found this one. And so they had to navigate through here, fighting off it was all robots, utility bots and combat bots that they had to fight off and kind of navigate through. But then there was one very powerful robot right here they had to fight off. But when that was happening, the Rakasha tried escaping. And so he was injured by the party. He ran this way. They tried using stun grenades, and he ended up running up the stairs. So there was this whole thing of them trying to chase the guy up the ladder itself. But he got to the top here, and he ran into soldiers that were in the hallway. And these soldiers, they suck. They're like level 1 basic soldiers. And the Rakasha should have cut through them, but he was rolling so badly. I was just like, geez, guy, like you should be able to cut through these dudes because, you know, you have +8 to hit. Come on, dude. Kept on missing. And in one round, 3 soldiers managed to roll, I think, 2 19s and 1 20 to hit with combat rifles. And if you play Stars Without Numbers, weapons deal a lot of damage. Like, your characters tend to have very low hit points, and weapons deal a lot of damage. So it's kind of, I like that. I like that feature of it makes really high-level characters still very vulnerable. And so 3 of these soldiers almost took down what essentially was a level 7, 7-hit dice creature. And he only had 1 hit point left, and he managed to he managed to take down one other guy, and they failed their morale, so they all fled. And at that point in time, too, one of our player characters managed to get to the top, our warrior, and I think Sean's character, Dawes, is level 8. He gets to the top, first thing he does, he's like, well, I'm just going to have to punch him because I have nothing else to do or else I'll kill him. Yep, land a hit. Punch the creature out. The creature, what had happened, gets to the top, all he hears is combat rifles go off, pop, 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 pop. The Rakasha was almost killed. He only had 1 hit dice left, and it would have been bad because they were hired to capture this guy, not kill him. And that would have ended bad for the party. But Rakasha cuts down these guys, they flee, Sean comes up behind him and just whap! Punches him, knocks him out, and they caught the Rakasha. And it was kind of like this dramatic, because it wasn't so much like, well, okay, other than fighting the powerful robot, which was almost, that was, made the players sweat right there. But the almost killing the Rakasha by a pathetic squad, oof, that would have been worse than losing a character. Because they were hired by St. Michael's and given everything they asked for to try and capture this creature alive. And that was the thing. So if they dropped the ball and they lost this character, man, it would have ended. They would have lost contacts. They would have lost their new vehicles. It would have been bad. So fortunately, they caught the creature. And now that's the end of this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what players do. The players right now, they're anywhere between level 7, levels 9. I think they might retire their characters and start level 1. I don't know. They haven't came back and told me what they want to do yet. Some of them kind of want to start over with new. Other ones kind of want to basically retire these characters and use them as NPCs or as contacts, which I'm cool with either way. So it's going to be fun to see how this works. Anyways, that's just, introduction. So take care.